The views on a Breath of Fresh Air podcast reflects the parties involved, and we encourage you all to use it as a conversational tool that will lead to personal studies of your own.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Welcome to a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz Gay. As a young person, Christianity can be so foggy, like smoke in the mirrors and so unclear. But we're here to bring you a breath of fresh air.
I brought you up out of Egypt. I led you into the land that I swore I would give to your ancestors. I said, I will never break my covenant with you, and you shall not make a covenant with the people of this land, but you shall break down their altars. Yet you disobeyed me. Why have you done this? And I have also said, I will not drive them out before you. They will become traps for you, and their gods will become snares to you.
This week we start the book of Judges. We see the cyclical nature that the Israelites fell into after Joshua died, because the generation did not pass on the knowledge of God or described his works and wonders to the younger generation. In this episode, we will mainly focus on Judges chapters 1 and 2. However, we touched on other topics that came up in the discussion. As always, be blessed and enjoy.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in again. And we have another entry into the, what are we calling our audience? First, we had breathers. Now we have inhalers. So, we still compiling a list. I know. We keep on saying this. We haven't said anything official yet, but it's in the back of our minds. So this week, I just want to encourage everyone to stay positive. And even though the world around us might seem like it's pretty chaotic at times, we have verses in the Bible just saying, be still, know that I am God. And to me, it's like just taking that time out to just be appreciative of what you still have, what you still have going on, how far God has brought you. Think about the things he's already brought you through, and just know that he still has a plan for you and he isn't done with you yet. So literally just take that deep breath and know that it's a gift from God and really appreciate it, because God still has a plan for you and he still has a purpose for you. So, it's pretty simple for me this week, but I really think that's important, just to take that minute, take a step back from all the craziness, take a deep breath and just say, thank you, God, for everything that you've done for me. Because I feel like a lot of times we just don't take that time just to say thank you throughout the chaos. And you might be like, what do I have to be thankful for? Check out our Thanksgiving episode. But definitely, we always have something to be grateful for. We always have something to be thankful for. And we shouldn't let the chaos of life and our current circumstances to make us lose sight of that. So just always be grateful, always be thankful, and just always just find a minute, a moment, just to be still and thank God. Praise him in advance.
Amen to that. Amen to that. So, let's get right into it. The book of Judges chapter 1. So basically, last episode, we finished off the book of Joshua. We got all of the tribes, I guess, situated in their new places.
Yeah, boy, we kind of ran through that last week. That was a train.
Yep. One thing never to forget, though, the Levites did not have a place of their own, because that was painfully clear. That, and there were still some Canaanites sprinkled among the most of the Israelite tribes. There was some tribes who could not drive out all of the Canaanites, basically. And as you all may assume, that is not just going to go away. This is going to be a problem, and basically that's what we're gonna run into very soon in the book of Judges.
Yeah, so just a quick overview. Some of these things we're going to get into, but the book of Judge comes from the Hebrew word sophet. And Judges chapter 2 is when you really, it's almost like you get like epilogue of the book. So Judges has like an interesting structure. It's broken up into 3 parts. You have an epilogue, a main story in the book, essentially is spoken, and then you have like an outro. I forgot the other word. But anyway, so Judges, you're going to see Judges weren't kings. They weren't prophets. They were just an Israelite leader at the time. Their whole purpose was to govern, to vindicate, to punish, to exert authority. And we're going to get into it. Like I said, Judges chapter 2 really gives us an overview of the whole book. It's interesting. Like, this is one of the books where you're like, you want to know this book about? Here it is right here. And then all the other chapters goes into depth to show you how Judges chapter 2 was proven right. But we're going to get into it. And when we get to Judges chapter 2, we're going to probably dissect. I think we're probably going to spend most of our episode in Judges chapter 2. Judges chapter 1 just brings the book together. Like, if you didn't read Joshua and you want to know where we're at, it picks right back up with Joshua. Literally, like, it kind of repeats the story again. So we're going to go through it, even though we already went through it last week. But you see, we come back to the story of Joshua and Caleb. Remember Caleb? Our good friend Caleb. And so Judges 1, verse 1. After the death of Joshua, all the Israelites asked the Lord, who would go up and fight for us for the Kenites? The Lord answered, Judah shall go up. And remember, Caleb was from the tribe of Judah. And we're going to, we get to Caleb a little further down. And then in verse 3, the man of Judah said to the Simeonites, their fellow Israelites, come up with us into the territory allotted to us to fight the Canaanites. We in turn will go with you to fight yours. So the Simeonites went with them. We remember last week we said the tribe of Simeon was located inside the tribe of Judah. I might put the map back up on the screen again. And then we see when Judah attacked, the Lord gave the Canaanites, Perizzites into their hands, and they struck down 10,000 men at Bezek. I think I said that right.
Who knows?
It was there they found Adonai Bezek and fought against him, putting to rout the Canaanites and Perizzites. Adonai Bezek fled, but they chased him, caught him, and cut off his thumbs and big toes. And Adonai Bezek, 70 kings with their thumbs and big toes cut off have picked up scraps under my table. Now God has paid me back for what I did to them. They brought him to Jerusalem and he died there. And so some scholars believe that this same Adonai Bezek is the same guy from Joshua who was the king of Jerusalem, and his name was Adonai. I got to go back in Joshua to find it. But they're saying this is like the same king who was the same king of Jerusalem at the time when Joshua went there and killed him. So then we see the men of Judah attack Jerusalem, and they took it and they put the city to the sword and set it on fire. After that, Judah went down to fight the Canaanites living in the hill country in the Negev, the western foothills. They advanced against the Canaanites living in Hebron, formerly called Caritha Arba. And they defeated Shashai, Aiman, Talmai. From there, they advanced against the people living in Deber, formerly called Kirath Sefer. And Caleb said, I will give my daughter Aksa in marriage to the man who attacks and captures Kirath Sefer. I really like Deber. Othniel, son of Kenaz, Caleb's younger brother, took it. So Caleb gave his daughter Aksa to him in marriage. We're just going to let Caleb's younger brother. Okay. One day she came to Othniel and she urged him to ask her father for a field. When she got off her donkey, Caleb asked her, what can I do for you? She replied, do me a special favor. Since you've given me land in the Negev, give me also the springs of the water. So Caleb gave her the upper and lower of the springs. And so we see like this is just a repeat of the story again from Joshua. Yep. And then the descendants of Moses' father-in-law, the Kenite, went up from the city of Palms. Palms. I almost said Psalms. With the people of Judah to live among the inhabitants of the desert of Judah in the Negev and near Arad. When the men of Judah went with the Simeonites, their fellow Israelites, and attacked the Canaanites in Zephath, they totally destroyed the city. Therefore, it was called Hormah. Judah also took Gaza, Ashkelon, Ekron, each city with its territory. And now we see the men of Judah took possession of the hill country. They were unable to drive the people from the plains because they had chariots fitted with iron. As Moses had promised, Hebron was given to Caleb, who drove it out from the three sons of Anak. The Benjamins, however, did not drive out the Jebusites who were living in Jerusalem. To this day, the Jebusites were living there with the Benjaminites. And then we get down to them showing where each of the other tribes settled down. And that's Judges chapter 1. So Judges chapter 1 was just a small recap showing you, okay, now the tribes of Israel have settled down in their respective locations in the new promised land, Canaan. So anything you want to add? Anything I missed?
No, just what you're saying. It's just a recap. It's just setting the tone for what's going to happen in Judges. Just so you remember, these people were in these places, and these were their surrounding cities, and this is what they did to get here. You know.
Pardon me. So now in Judges chapter 2, they really had like two books back to back with almost the same name. The angel of the Lord went up from Gilgal to Bochim and said, I brought you out of Egypt and led you into the land I swore to give to your ancestors. I said, I will never break my covenant with you, and you shall not make a covenant with the people of this land, but you shall break down their altars. Yet you have disobeyed me. Why have you done this? And I have also said, I will drive them out before you. I also said, I will not. And I have also said, I will not drive them out before you. They will become traps for you, and their gods will become snares for you. When the angel of the Lord had spoken these things to the Israelites, the people wept aloud, and they called that place Bochim. They offered sacrifices to the Lord, and Bochim means
weepers.
Yeah, weepers. People in the Bible were pretty practical about what they named places. We cried here, we wept. Bochim.
Yep.
And then so we see after Joshua dismissed the Israelites, and we see this still kind of recap, because remember, Joshua said his final words in the end of Joshua, as we did in the last episode. So now we're seeing Joshua is kind of alive, but like it is still a synopsis of painting the picture of how we're getting to the book of Judges. So we're still like saying, okay, this is still the intro. This is saying, okay, this is the intro to Judges still. Like they're painting the picture of what's going to happen, what has happened, how did the Israelites get to this point? So pick up in Judges 2, verse 6. After Joshua had dismissed the Israelites, they went up to take possession of the land, each of their own inheritance. The people served the Lord throughout the lifetime of Joshua and of the elders who had lived him and who had seen all the great things that the Lord had done for Israel. So, I mean, this is pretty important. So I don't even want to gloss over this. So you see now, the Bible is clearly saying again. Remember, Joshua said, you guys have a choice. Who will you serve? As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. You guys have a choice. So now in this whole, because now remember, these are the people who made it into the promised land. These are the ones who conquered the promised land. These are the ones who still saw all of the good things. They remember how life was in the desert. They remember the pillar of fire by day. At night, the pillar of cloud by day. They remember hearing the stories about Egypt. I mean, since they probably were kids when they left Egypt, but they remember hearing the stories of Egypt. They remember seeing how their parents sinned and couldn't get into Egypt. Yep. They remember Moses. They remember Moses dying. So these were the people who conquered Canaan. So now we're seeing. Remember, they even said, when Joshua was like, "Are you guys going to serve the Lord?" He said, "Yeah, we're going to serve the Lord. We're going to do it." Joshua's like, "You guys sure?" "Yes, we will serve the Lord." But we're seeing they did. They kept their word.
Mm-hmm. But
while Joshua lived, they did it. While all the others who outlived him, they did it. And the Bible said, who had seen all the great things the Lord had done for Israel. Bang. So now pick up in verse 8. Joshua, son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died at age 110. And they buried him in the land of his inheritance at Timnath-Heres, in the hill country of Ephraim, north of Mount Gash. Verse 10, after the whole generation had been gathered to their ancestors, another generation grew up, who knew neither the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. So we see right here in verse 10, we had a whole generation who saw all the works God had done, who remembered the desert, who remembered conquering Canaan, who said they were serving the Lord themselves. But now we see after that generation had been gathered to their ancestors, so after they died, the generation under them grew up knowing neither of the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. And to me, it's pretty strange that the parents or grandparents, whichever bracket, I mean, they're just saying the next generation, so I would assume that's the kids, how this next generation did not feel the importance or the need or have the desire to tell their children about the good things the Lord has done for them. Basic history, how we got here. Talk about how life was in Egypt. I mean, I've heard my grandfather talk about stories on the contract. I've heard him talk about when he was like a lighthouse keeper. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's just so interesting that they didn't find it
important, like it didn't come up.
Important. And then to me, you guys know the curses firsthand. You heard the curses from Moses.
Yep.
Joshua echoed these curses to you guys again. So I would think it would behoove them to at least tell their children, hey, here's what God has done. If we serve him, these good things will happen to us. If we don't serve him, there's a great possibility and probability that these bad things are going to happen. I didn't want these bad things to happen. So I tried to serve God. You know what I'm saying? Like I might have a little slip up here and there, but I was doing my best to do the little ritual sacrifice, the little ritual purifications. Like we have a whole book of Leviticus that gets us to get closer to God when we need to, book of, like we have these things.
But what I don't understand, right? Do we think the angel of the Lord who spoke at the beginning of this chapter, do we think that happened before or after the generation had already died?
I think given the context, it would have to happen after that generation died, even though I know the book is written that way.
Yeah.
Because I think it would have to happen after, because he would have no reason to say it. Because just like how the Bible, it's almost like the Bible doing like, oh yeah, I'm going to tell you what happened. And then we're going to backtrack, show you how we got here. Yep. And this thing that happened is going to happen between these two verses, but you already know the context from reading it above. And so now I'm just telling you how we got here.
Yep. And I agree. And I wanted to say that because we do know based on the book of Joshua that the Israelites served the Lord the days of Joshua. You understand what I'm saying? And the days of the elders who were with Joshua, but then it rose a generation who didn't know any of those. And the reason why I wanted to make that distinction is because the Israelites in Judges 2 verse 4, when the angel of the Lord had spoken these things to the Israelites, the people wept aloud, right? Mm-hmm. And they called the place Bochim. There they offered sacrifices to the Lord. So I wanna show you what my thought process is. Verse 10. It said, another generation who grew up who knew neither the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. So tell me this. If you know the Lord, if you do not know this guy, when he speaks, right? How would you know what you are to do after the fact? When you hear this random voice who you don't know speak, how do you know this is a bad thing? Why do you care, right? How do you know to do sacrifices to the Lord to rectify the situation? You understand? Because what I'm thinking is that it's not the fact that they weren't aware. You understand what I'm saying? But it's a deeper type of no. Like you could say, hey, you know Jimmy who lived down the street? You don't know him personally, but I know who he is. When I see him, oh yeah, Jimmy, that's your boy. He live in that house. I know Jimmy. You understand? But now, if you say, okay, how old is Jimmy? You understand what I'm saying? What does Jimmy like? What does he sound like? How does he dress? Oh, I know him like that, because you don't really know him. You just know of him. You are aware of him. But this generation was not familiar with this guy, with the Lord. I'm sorry. They were not they were familiar with him, but they did not have a deep knowledge of him. They did not know how to love him, and they didn't try. You understand? They served the Baals. That's what the next text we want to get in. The verse 11, then the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord and served the Baals. They switched religions. That's essentially what verse 11 is saying. Verse 10 was saying that I brought you out. At the beginning, God talked about, I brought you out of Egypt. And remember in Exodus, Earl, the Lord made this distinction. When he first introduced himself to Moses, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I speak in you in a language that you understand. You know them, but you don't know me. So not on this deeper level. So let me introduce myself to you for real. Then when he speaks to the Israelites, I am the God that brought you out of Egypt. He continues to say that. Mm-hmm. When they complain about this, or we need water, or we need this, I am going to do this. And then they're going to know that I am the Lord that brought you out of Egypt. Mm-hmm. And so God is making everything very relevant. And it's a personal thing for y'all because y'all experience being led out of Egypt. And I am that guy. I'm the same person. Remember this. So the Lord, he went out of his way and did a lot of extra stuff so that you could put the two together. I am God, and I am the one that brought you out of Egypt. I'm the same guy. Now we have a group of people who had not experienced any adversity. These were the entitled kids who were born in the land of milk and honey. They did not experience any struggle. You understand? So they didn't have the same type of relevance. And so the first generation of, even the parents who made it into the promised land, I am assuming that they did not prioritize training their child in the way they should go. Because I'm sure they brought it up. Oh, we were out of Egypt, this and that and the third. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, they did not train them and teach them how to obey these things or to care. I have friends, you and I, we born and raised seven-day Adventists. We have friends, as soon as they get of age to the point where they working and they're able to self-sustain, they stop going to church because I make the decisions. You understand what I'm saying? These and some of that could be because they never were taught like the deep meaning on building a relationship with God, and it would just seem like a chore because that's what happens a lot of times with a lot of churches, a lot of different denominations. It just becomes like a ceremonial thing. I'm going to church, but it's not really like a reset. We're not really trying to learn more or really develop our relationship with God. We're going as an action the same way we used to go to school every day. When I was given the option if I want to go get my master's or not, I was like, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm done with school. You know what I'm saying? I already feel like I had enough of that because I'm able to make that choice. But I feel like I have enough knowledge to know whether that is something that is a necessity for me or not, right? But some people look at their religion and their relationship with God, and they see it as not a necessity. I feel like that's what's going on with the Israelites. Our parents used to do these sacrifices and all of this stuff. I don't see that as being important. I have friends who born the same type of families as me, but they go on and they convert to another religion. You know what I'm saying, or just none at all. Very cavalier with their salvation. And I feel like that's exactly what's happening. Not exactly, but I feel like that's more along the lines of what's happening here. These are children who they do not prioritize worshiping the God. And now they have fallen subject to doing what they see others around them doing. Basically. So in verse 11, then the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord and served the Baals. They forsook the Lord. Oh, yeah.
Go for it. I was going to say one more thing is what I skip over too, just like the divinity of the angel of the Lord who came and spoke to them, because you see he was talking very personal. So sometimes we always try to run like, is this angel of the Lord just a normal angel, or is this angel of the Lord like God? Mm-hmm. We see, God the Father is invisible, but this one you can definitely see this is God who's coming. I brought you out of Egypt. He's claiming the divinity. I will never break my covenant with you, yet you disobeyed me. So, normally you say you disobeyed the Lord. The Lord said this, and then this one's pretty personal, pretty I did all these things for you. And I just like how, because we're going to get into it too, but you see hey, I was the one who brought you to Egypt. And now we see him back in verse 12 where you were continuing reading. They said, they forsook the Lord, the God of their ancestors who had brought them out of Egypt. They followed and worshipped various gods of the peoples around them. And then they aroused the Lord's anger because they forsook him and served Baal and the Ashtoreths. In his anger, against Israel, the Lord gave them into the hands of the raiders who plundered them. He sold them into the hands of their enemies all around, whom they were no longer able to resist. When Israel went out to fight, the hand of the Lord was against them to defeat them, just as he had sworn to them. They were in great distress.
Okay, so you brought up a really nice point, and you had brought this point up earlier on the pod. Remember we was talking about who was speaking during the burning bush. The one that said, "I am," was that the Most High God, or was that Jesus? You know what I'm saying? Whoever you assume that to be at the burning bush, you should also make the same assumption here, because both times they're described as the angel of the Lord. You understand what I'm saying? And so, I want to believe this is just Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just how the Old Testament describes Jesus, mainly because, we could get into a deep theological debate on it, but I don't really want to stray there. But I don't feel like it's literally an angel. You know what I'm saying? I think this is describing the Lord, because when they describe Exodus 3 verse 2, there the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire within a bush. At the burning bush, he said, "I am," and we all recognize that to be God. We don't recognize that to be an angel of any source. You know what I'm saying? And definitely because he say, "I brought you out of Egypt," all that, we know that's God. But so yeah, that was just to the point that you made.
Yeah, like, people might think, oh, it's super provocative to say it's Jesus, but it's pretty logical, because if you read further on in the Bible, I think it's in Micah 5, I want to say. But essentially, I know it was talking about saying Jesus, something to the effect that Jesus, he came out of Bethlehem, he was little, thousands out of Judah, but essentially you come forth as a ruler, and you were from old, you were from everlasting. So something to that effect, but it's essentially saying we know Jesus was around before he was born. He just gave up his godliness and came in a human form. But it wasn't Jesus just was born in the year 32 AD. No, he was in heaven before that, came down to earth, and he went back to his Father after that. So he was around. The Son was around. The Son was around in the beginning. And that's why you have in John, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. There's these many instances to show that Jesus was around before. So trying to just show his divinity. So I say all this to back up your point, to justify that, yeah, it might sound weird to say, but when you got to understand he was around from the beginning, then you can say, okay, yeah, these instances can be it, because God the Father does not leave his throne. And Jesus said, "No man has seen the Father. You see the Father through me."
Yep.
So, as theological as anyone wants to get on us, like I said, do your research. Yeah, I would love to have more conversations about this, because I know we get on a tangent now, but even this last week, actually, me and Kaz had some discussion just on the Trinity itself, because we saw something on the internet that was just discussing the validity of the Trinity. And that's a conversation for a whole different day that I'm not going to get into now. But to me, this is the importance of doing your own research, and iron sharpens iron, because it's points like these where you have to make sure that we're all, for lack of a better word, on one accord. The ultimate goal here is not to say we're right or wrong. The ultimate goal is to make sure we're both all understanding the Word of God correctly. And then at the same time, just trying to win souls for the kingdom. At the end of the day, that's all it is. So I'm not here to argue, we're just trying to have discussions. Because just how Peter and Paul were having discussions back in the day, because they had theological disagreements. This is in the early church. They had major theological disagreements. Peter was saying, you have to become a Jew first before you become a Christian. Paul was saying, bro, Jesus died and done away with all this Judaism foolishness you're talking with.
And it's funny because Jesus was the Messiah for all. You know what I'm saying? He was the Messiah for all. And Jesus did certain stuff that was super taboo, eating at a festival with tax collectors. You know what I'm saying? Super taboo for you to do. That you know what that's equivalent to, in my opinion. How some people in the African American community really do not like police officers because of the way they abuse their authority, and when a Black person becomes a police, you look at that as a sellout. Sometimes, especially if you're a crooked police, right? Imagine Jesus eating with the police, who you know just treating you unfairly all day and all night. You know what I'm saying? Extorting you, because that's what the tax collectors was doing. They were officials of the Roman government, not the Jewish government. You understand what I'm saying? They were Roman officials taxing people, and then they was extorting you on top of that taxes. So you now a non-Roman, you becoming one of them, Matthew, who I'm talking about. You a sellout, bro. You taxing your own people, and you acting, you just acting unreasonable, bro. Like you one of them.
Something just came to my mind, man, and it's crazy, but what just come to my mind, like Paul and Peter, even though they had theological disagreements, they had councils. We can see that council in Jerusalem where it's documented about people go check Acts, and Paul even Paul referencing thinking like Romans and stuff too, right? But you know what they didn't do?
What?
What we see so much of today, they didn't go form a new church. They didn't go form a new denomination. They didn't go form a new religion.
Yeah.
And today's, like, that's the first thing you do. Oh, we disagree theologically. Instead of coming together and trying to solve this out, I'm going to just go form a new church. It's so common in today's, like, almost sickening and cringy.
It's so much new church. It's churches within churches now, bro. Like no lie, bro. So like no lie, bro. Like
that's really what happened. And like, bro, I don't know. The Holy Spirit just put it in my head, bro. It's like, bro, that's literally what, like, they disagreed. Like, to me, that's almost like, oh yeah, okay, you don't want to have the Gentiles come to church. We're just gonna form a different. No, we're gonna come together. We're gonna wrestle with the scripture. We're gonna figure this out. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's how it should be. Like, too much people just get. I don't want. You know when you feel like you're mashing con, but at the same time, like, bro, I don't really care. Like, bro, like too much people just be so in their feelings and think their theology is so right and spread to, like, bro. To me, what is your truth as to the Bible? Let's go in the Bible. Let's find all the texts that talk about this. Let's find all the passages. Let's study the teaching. Let's study the word, and we come to an agreement with the Holy Spirit in the middle of us.
Yeah, I don't feel like, and this is easier said than done, but I don't feel like people should be emotionally attached, like the theology is for real, because at the end of the day, this is the Lord's words. It's His will. You know what I'm saying? And then we have natural biases in ourselves. But like what I was saying was, Jesus eating with tax collectors, bro, plural. Matthew threw a party with his friends. You know what I'm saying? He probably didn't have a lot of Jewish friends because he was a sellout. You know what I'm saying? Like Jesus there eating and chilling with them. That was taboo. But you know what else was taboo? Him at the well with the lady who was a Samaritan. You understand what I'm saying? And just thinking about it, bro, he went from there where he preached to a bunch of Samaritans. Then he went to Galilee where he was
almost thrown.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and you can see the direct parallel. You understand? The foreigners welcome him. You understand? And then his own people ain't even welcome him. Like his hometown, bro. Imagine I come back to Nassau, bro, and I trying to do anything, and they the people who feel me the least, bro. That's not a good feeling, in my opinion. But what I'm saying is, these things are showing me that Jesus did not have the Jewish bias that a lot of other people had. Like it was unlawful for you to like accept gifts or eat with a Samaritan, any of that. So when Jesus asked her for water, she was like, bro, hold on. You must say I'm from out of town, but listen to me. You's a Jew. Y'all ain't even supposed to do that. You understand? So Peter now, who is a Jew and falls that, and like he's subject to this type of ideology as well. You know what I'm saying? He still had these biases, and Paul was like, bro, no, y'all really not getting it, bro. This ain't about y'all, bro. Everybody have an equal stake in salvation. And that was the point of Jesus. And the Pharisees didn't get it. A lot of people didn't get it because there's just so much biases involved. But like you say, bro, we have two people who was on the same team, and despite having differences, they ain't say, bro, all right, we're gonna do our own thing and just divide the gospel, you know. And that leaves so much room for just so much different doctrines and so much crazy stuff, bro. But
it leads us to where we are today in the world.
For sure.
I mean, like I know we're on a serious tangent, and I promise we want to get back to Judges.
This is serious tangent.
Like I promise we want to get back to Judges, but like Christianity alone got, I feel, almost as much denominations as other religions together. You'd be like, oh, you're a Christian? Oh, are you Orthodox? Are you Catholic? Are you Seventh-day Adventist? Are you Jehovah's Witness? They have a shepherd's rod. They have a shepherd's rod. I don't know if that's an official denomination or just like what you call, but that's a different type of Adventist, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it to me, it's like an Methodist, Baptist, Church of God, like.
And then they have 7-day Baptists, they have 7-day Methodists and stuff like that, bro. Like,
and like all of these came from different theological things. I know when they had the big split between the Catholics and the Protestants, and most of all these branches from the Protestants branch, but at the same time, it was like, it's just a lot of theological differences. And some people wanted to accept their truth.
mm-hmm.
We're going to have next episode on this topic because I really feel like I want to say so much more, but I feel like it's going to be completely off topic and we're going to get back to Judges.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we're going to put a pin in this conversation. And I know a couple episodes, I need to go back through and actually listen to some of these
collect
episodes.
all them pins.
Yeah, and collect those pins. Because I remember just like this week, my friend was like, hey, remember in the 10 Commandments, you guys said you're going to do a Sabbath episode. I think that's a good idea. And I'm like, that is a good idea.
It definitely is.
But I'm just like, stuff like that, we actually need to go back to and be like, okay, here's an episode on the Sabbath. And actually have a deep dive on the Sabbath itself. And just pull from all the different references in the Bible, just talk about it, just have a discussion about it. Like, I think it'll be beneficial.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, I love talking about the Sabbath, bro. So anyway, let's get back.
All right. So now we see in Judges 15, when he said, whenever the Israelites went out to fight, the hand of the Lord was against them to defeat them, just as he had sworn to them. They were in great distress. In verse 16, then the Lord rose up judges who saved them out of the hands of the raiders. So we're seeing a pattern starting to develop, but we're going to keep it going. Yet, verse 17 in Judges 2, yet they would not listen to their judges, but prostituted themselves to other gods and worshiped them, then quickly turned from the ways of their ancestors who had been obedient to the Lord's commands. Whenever the Lord raised up a judge for them, he was with the judge and saved them out of the hands of their enemies as long as the judge lived. For the Lord relented because of their groaning under those who were oppressed and afflicted them. But when the judge died, the people returned to the ways even more corrupt than those of their ancestors, following the other gods and serving and worshiping them. They refused to give up their evil practices and stubborn ways. Therefore, the Lord was very angry with Israel and said, because this nation had violated the covenant I ordained for their ancestors and has not listened to me, I will no longer drive out before them any of the nations when Joshua left when he died. I will use them to test Israel and see whether they will keep the way of the Lord and walk in it as their ancestors did. The Lord allowed those nations to remain. He did not drive them out at once by giving them into the hands of Joshua. So there's a lot there. There's a lot there. To me, just saying, like from verse 16 to 19, even from that, like I'm going to go up from verse 10 to 19. We're seeing a pattern develop, and we're seeing, like I said, Judges 2 really gives you the whole idea of what Judges is about, because you don't really know the Lord's going to rise up judges, but you're saying, like in Judges 2, they're saying, yeah, guess what? Israel's kind of fall into this cyclical pattern. They got up, the first thing is, we see that's how did we get here? The generation after the generation who conquered the land did not know God. They didn't know God. They didn't know what God did. And they started to worship idols. God got angry and withdrew his presence away from them. So now this gave strength to the other nations, the Canaanites. You see the Jebusites and the Hivites and everyone else who stayed there, all the other ites who stayed in the land, who weren't driven out when Joshua was alive. They now rose up and started defeating them. Because remember, in the last episode, we saw how, oh yeah, these people conquered this land, but they didn't drive out this little bit, but they made them their slaves. So now we're seeing, they say, oh yeah, these other nations now, oh yeah, they got their strength back. There's no more subduing them. So now they rose up and they attacked the Canaanites. God had them crying out. I wouldn't say God have a soft spot for his people, but he loves his people. So he's saying, oh, okay, I understand. Rises up a judge. Oh, people repent, I guess, turn back, start worshiping God. Judge died, right back to the evil ways.
And even worse.
Even worse. The Bible literally says.
Yeah. Compound idolatry.
Mm-hmm. And then we see again, God say, okay, cool. turn them back, rise up a next judge. They do it again. Judges die. They return to their evil ways, more corrupt, cries out, rises up a next judge. And so now we're seeing this cyclical pattern developing with Israel. And it's really, it's the path that's setting down to the wrong path. Let's just say that.
So at this point in time, bro, we have to accept the Israelites for who they are. You know, because ever since they left Egypt, they have been pretty consistent. You understand? They have been pretty consistent to worship idols. We see that as soon, bro. They were left unsupervised for 40 days, and they built an idol. And it was the leader. It was one of the leaders, one of the head priests. You know, out of the Levite clan, Aaron.
What you mean, man? He just put it in the fire and a
yeah, that's true. That's my bad. My bad. He didn't build nothing.
No,
he just showed it in the fire. Poof, out came a calf.
Out came a calf.
And so we can see where idolatry. I won't say it in their DNA because I truly don't believe that. I don't really believe nothing in your DNA besides like your physical makeup and things like that. You understand? But what's it called? Figuratively speaking, this is in their DNA because they inclined to default to idolatry. Even after all of the wicked people who we know would have been directly influenced by Egypt had already died, and there was a new generation who only knew God and only knew the wilderness. They still wasn't getting it right. You understand? And so through Joshua, we iron out all the kinks. And Joshua telling them, hey, I know y'all still sneaking idols. You know what I'm saying? Get rid of them idols. Y'all can serve whoever idol y'all want to serve, but true, I serving God, you know? And so for the most part, they served God and they was obedient. But then the generation beneath them, right back to business, you know? We have this, it's like this seesaw, this teeter-totter, and I feel like it's really lopsided in favor of the idolatry because you can see where people, they have to be begged to serve God. Mm-hmm. We don't see what it takes for them to really have to serve idolatry. It don't seem hard. It seems quite natural to them just to default to that, you know? And truthfully, because I can let you get to your point in a second.
Yeah, go for
truthfully, because we born in sin, all of us have that in us. We want to default to the wicked or to the ungodly, I would say. You understand what I'm saying? But truthfully, you could see a direct pattern. A lot of us today, we don't sin today and then something bad happened tomorrow, or we could be able to pinpoint our downfall to what we done. You know what I'm saying? It takes faith for us to really put two and two together. But these people know, you have it written down. This is what's going to happen if you all don't do this, or if you all do this thing, if you all worship idols. They worship idols and they see it happening, but they'll never stop doing it until it becomes too much for them to bear. Until the punishment is too much for them to bear, that's when they stop for a moment.
Yeah, and to me, going back on one of your points, to me, I just think it was a product of their environment and why it was so easy for them to fall back into that sin. Because where was the first place they learned idol worship?
Egypt.
That was in Egypt. And why was it so common for them to adopt it? Because all the Egyptians were doing idol worship. They were all pagans. They were worshiping Ra, Isis, Osiris, Hotep, all of the Egyptian gods, too numerous to mention. But this was so commonplace. This is what they were seeing every day for that 400 years. Even though they were in Goshen, you go into the main Egypt city before they were slaves and stuff, that's all you're seeing. You're seeing them worship idol gods. Especially now, imagine that compounded when the generations aren't even talking about God. Your elders aren't even talking about God. So you're seeing this so commonplace, and you're seeing, for lack of a better word, Egypt being blessed, not knowing that you're the reason why they're being blessed, but you're saying they're worshiping these gods and they're being blessed. This happened for generations. So they picked up that idolatry from Egypt. It's really commonplace. They were a product of their environment. They were worshiping idols in Egypt. They picked it up and they got comfortable doing that. It worked for them in Egypt. Come in the desert, things are going bad. You have some Egyptians with you too. You're defaulting to what you thought worked for you.
Mm-hmm.
You're defaulting to what you thought works for you. And that was worshiping idols. So in that 40 days when Moses was in there, who was their direct connection to God, they're like, we're defaulting to what's comfortable for us. This sin is comfortable for us. So we're going back. This is our fix. So we're going to build an idol because we know what? That is what we know. Unfortunately, I'm just saying. So now we fast forward couple years, couple decades.
Mm-hmm.
Now this generation is in Canaan. What are the Canaanites doing? Who was around them? Worshipping idols, compounded with the fact that mommy and daddy and Grammy and grandpa didn't tell me about the Lord. I don't know what mommy and daddy and grandpa experienced with the Lord. So now I'm seeing these Canaanites is working for them. They're just worshiping their idols. What we're falling back to, a product of our environment, we're going to start worshiping these idols too. Like it's kind of compounded because the two times we see them worshiping the most idols, they were surrounded by idol worshipers, not giving them that excuse. But I'm just saying, sometimes we as Christians, we got to watch out for our environment, because what did God do to Abraham? He said, guess what? You need to leave this country.
Mm-hmm.
All your family and stuff worshiping idols here. I wouldn't say I can't work for you here, but it would be harder for me to work with you when you're surrounded in this environment. I need to pull you out of this environment, take you on a land far away where you can be one-on-one with me in the wilderness, and we can talk, we can reason. I can show you the plan I have for you. But you worshiping all these idols, that's going to be exerting too much willpower for me. So God pulled Abram out of Ur and said, go to a land where I will show you. Didn't even tell him where he was going. Check out our earlier episodes. Didn't tell him where he was going. Say, go to a land I'll show you. But I had to pull you out of that environment. I'm just saying, sometimes your environment that you're in is breeding a complacency for the sins you're doing. Because it's like you have to exercise so much willpower not to sin because it's so commonplace. It's like, I'm trying not to drink, but I'm going to the bar every day, saying I'm not drinking. It would be way easier for me just not to be in this bar to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But I see you want to say something.
No, I was saying off mic we was talking, and it was just so confusing to me because, first of all, when last year the US was going through their elections, and I am so glad that I don't even have the option to vote. You understand what I'm saying? So I can't get fully invested in this,
Mm-hmm.
and it, in every country, politics is like a very emotional thing. We have people in our country who true you only on this side because my daddy and his daddy, you know what I mean? Like my whole family in this color, so that's me. It's people like that. And in the US, they have a lot of it is rooted in religion. So because I feel my religious beliefs, I know that I am this side of the spectrum, right? And it's so funny because a lot of times you're religious, the belief that it's so much for you, like it's the game changer for you. Why you latch onto it is because of abortion or homosexuality. They very outspoken against that or for that, right? And based on your religion or based on your brand of Christianity, that's what I like, that, and that's why I feel it. But guess what, bro? I hear about idolatry. We in like the 7th book of the Bible, right? And I hear so much about idolatry and worshiping idols so far at the beginning of the book, right? Bro, these other things that people really be like, oh, this is what I believe as a Christian, da 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 da. Bro, in the book, we ain't even get to them stuff like that, bro. A lot of them stuff brush over. You understand what I say? But idolatry is a serious thing. It's in the 10 Commandments. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Some of the religious stances people is take, these ain't even in the commandments, bro. You understand what I'm saying? God ain't even talk about these things as much as he talk about idolatry. Like let's just say abortion, right? I ain't here to talk on which side you should lean on. But think about how much the Bible is talking about that. To me, that's a gray area. You understand what I'm saying? If I ain't completely honest, but we talk about idolatry straight through, bro. And then guess what? I sitting there and I thinking, me as someone who from this part of the world during this time of the world's history, I don't understand what the relevance is. I just don't understand. I just don't understand why y'all even care to do this, bro. This is boring to me. You feel me? Like this don't even make sense. You know what I'm saying? But think about it like this, right? It's some religions, and I'm gonna use like Buddhism as an example, right? They big on statues. But then when you meet Buddhists, they so like some of them are very cool, very mysterious. You admire the way they live. A lot of them are disciplined. You understand?
Devout.
Devout. And they're not mean. They're not trying to kill you or nothing like that. And that's how I imagine the Canaanites as being like cannibals and just savages. But no, the Canaanites could have been some of the chillest people in that area, bro. Good personality, nice, very smart. But their religion is what leads them to worship these idols. You understand what I'm saying? And that's now the way I look at it. And this might be flawed because I live in this day and age. I haven't done enough research outside of the Bible to understand cultures during this time. But I think about Rastafarianism. In the Caribbean, we have quite a number of Rastafarians. I don't see Rastafarians as much in other countries, maybe in Africa, in those countries in Africa. But outside of the Caribbean, I don't really see it that often. But Rastafarians are, like, growing up, I thought they were very cool because they seem very wise. They were also very devout, you know, but they have practices that as a Christian does not align with us. But they have a lot that do align with Christians, to be honest with you. You understand what I'm saying? They have practices that don't align. And the person they represent as the Son of God is 100% not Jesus. You understand what I'm saying? And so my thing is, I've had friends who born Adventists, they get introduced to Rastafarianism, they convert to Rastafarianism. Despite having all of the information that you and I have, or the access to all of this information, they convert to Rastafarianism. And so I say in all of this to show you all the type of picture that's been painted in my mind when it comes to worshiping idols. It don't, like, to me, like, if you know, like the devil, Lucifer, for example, if you see a red creature with a tail that's like a pointy pitchfork like tail, you would be resistant to that thing, and you wouldn't just openly accept him. You understand what I'm saying?
No,
but if he come as an angel of light that's telling you half the truth, that's very palatable. That's how you can be deceived and end up accepting his theology or whatever he bringing you to do. These people worshiping idols, they probably don't come off like the most evil people or just so abrasive or anything like that. They probably regular people, just you and I, with a pagan form of religion. And some of the stuff could make a lot of sense to you. And the things that don't make sense to you might not even be important to you. And so, because this is trendy and I admire things about these people, I now want to do it. I now want to try it. You know, it's like with the way we look at other religions now, it's like a way of thinking, and it's good to absorb from everyone so you could have an open mind. That's what the world would want you to believe. You understand? To be a hippie like person, like just grab from every one of them. But if you are a Christian, there are things in different religions that are 100% against the Bible. You know? And as you get into extreme cases, there are sacrifices and like we know Canaanites was doing child sacrifices and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You can't say that everyone was, or you can't say that everyone wasn't. You understand what I'm saying? But my thing about the idols, I feel like it was just I feel like the transition was easy because it wasn't that. I don't think it was like so aggressive or so uncomfortable. I feel like it was a comfortable way. It was a comfortable transition for people. It's like when people start doing like your alcohol and marijuana and stuff like that. It's not like some drug dealer kidnapping you, putting you in a car and then saying, "Hey, smoke this." You know what I'm saying? It's your friend. It's your friend who you with every day, who you grow up with, who do it, saying, "Yo, check this out." Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? And that makes it easier to absorb. You understand? That makes it more acceptable. And yeah, so. But the fact of the matter is, no matter what someone's intentions are, no matter how cool or how nice this person is, at the end of the day, they're going against God. We have people in the Bible who are your soulmates that tell you to do stuff against God. Job's wife say, "Hey, you might as well curse God and die." Job said, "Well, you speaking the way fools speak, bro. You carrying yourself like a fool." I rate Job high for that because that's your wife, bro. You know, I don't think he wanted to offend her, but he had to be honest with you. A fool would say something like that. You understand what I'm saying? And so sometimes it's people, they hearts might have good intentions. They might be cool people. They might be people who you love, your loved ones, but they could definitely lead you astray. And I feel like that's what's happening in this line. They might not have been 100% just enemies. Obviously wasn't, because y'all cool enough for y'all to really just for us to just be adopting your style of things. Mm-hmm. That's completely against my style. You know, so
And to me, something I think we should talk about briefly, but because like sometimes in my mind, just thinking like, suppose it's like the first time someone's listening to our podcast. Well, one, thanks for listening. Two, like just talk about like the importance. Why God hated so much idolatry? Because I know we just like ragged on it, but to me, sometimes always good to revisit the why.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm gonna just probably start and probably let you finish it. But to me, well, one, why? Well, when it's in the Ten Commandments, but two, it's like this is God's chosen people to show the world his goodness. They were his examples. He's saying, do not worship any other gods because one, I deserve all the glory. I have done all these things for you. You're giving all of my praise and you're attributing all of the goodness to all these other gods, idols who are doing absolutely nothing for you. If you're supposed to be my witness, how can you be serving these other gods? And these other nations are in fear of you because of me. These other nations respect me more than you, but you're worshiping their gods. Like, go for it.
No, but then think about it too, though, right? And that's something that we spoke about off mic too. And
yo, guys, some of our off mic conversations be.
We need to just start clicking record.
Just record and go. But yeah, go for it.
But earlier, in our pod journey, we often identified the test that the patriarchs experienced. You know, so Adam and Eve. We had the knowledge of good and evil, the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That was their test. You know, that's your way of proving that you're serving God because you want to out of your free will and not because you don't have any other option. If the Lord had allowed them, the Israelites, to just expel Canaan of everybody, and if the Lord knowingly did that, knowing that in their hearts they still weren't fully they still hadn't gotten rid of idolatry in their hearts, then they would be serving God because they have no other option. They would have been serving God against their will, essentially. So the Lord give them an option. I'm not going to expel all of these people out of this land because I want you to I want to test you all to show me that you are going to serve me in the face of adversity. And that they did not. And that's something that each and every one of us has to go through. We have the Lord test us to prove that we are serving him out of our own will, out of our own love, and not because you're being forced to do so. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to make that point on.
But even though to me too, and you can correct me if I'm wrong too, like even though he said, okay, I will. Because he did say, I will not drive them before you, and they will become traps for you, and their gods will become snares for you. And to me, it's almost saying, guess what? You guys didn't even finish the job. Since you guys didn't finish the job, the same people you guys actually left here now, they're going to be the snaps and snares for you. Because remember, your job, even to Joshua, you remember even when Joshua like, go, why are you guys waiting so long to conquer this land? And that's when Joshua went to the other tribes too and said, hey guys, we're taking too long, but they still didn't finish the job. They actually got complacent. Because of your complacency too, because think about it, this environment wouldn't even have been around y'all anymore if y'all actually had finished the job. Mm-hmm. You guys didn't finish the job to begin with. You guys got complacent that you're already in the promised land. So now you let this bad environment linger on when you actually get the chance to take it away. Mm-hmm. But now, since you left it and you actually want to adopt what they're doing, okay, they will now become snares for you.
Yep, and by definition, a snare is a trap for catching birds or animals, typically one having a noose or wire or cord. So it quite literally means a trap. You understand? Now you could fall for the trap. You understand what I'm saying? Or you could be obedient. You know, and that's really what the Israelites were being faced with. And it, like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to just go hard on the Israelites and just be like, oh, what y'all was doing, but y'all should have known better. And the fact that the Lord punished you all for this proves to me that y'all could have done better, you know?
And to me, it's not really going hard yet. And I think we're just going to stop to this chapter today. So, and then it makes sense because next time we actually start getting into the Judges. But to me, like, it's two main points. Like, it's like when the people of God are not told the works of God, from the word of God, they lose the wonder of God. And we see that's what's really happening right now. Like the generation who were the people of God, they didn't tell the second generation what God had done for them. They didn't tell that generation the works of God. And they had no reason not to, because they had the first 5 books of the Bible. They literally had all of what, you know what I'm saying? Then they had the words of Joshua, who just left, and he said, write these things down. They had what Moses said. They had the 10 commandments. They had the temple and everything. So they literally had the word of God with them. And now they lost sight of all the goodness and things that God could do for them. So the people lost the wonder of God, the spectacle of God. So now they end up, and like you said earlier, we have this void we're trying to fill. So now you don't know the wonder of the true God, but you're going to try to fill it with, oh, these replicas that you see over here. But then the thing that was so sad about it, we're going to get into it, the cyclical nature of it. And we see the Israelites were doing this from the desert, but to see that the generations afterwards are doing it in a different sense, but to even a more higher degree now, because the people in the desert, they were bickering and complaining. It was more like issues of faith. Like, okay, yeah, God, you just did this, but can you do this now? Can you actually give us more food? Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? These ones are like, oh yeah, God did this. Oh yeah, we love him. Oh, okay, we like these idols again. And these ones just blatantly keep on going back to the idols. Like, to me, like that's what the more hurtful part about it. Like, you're asking for the judge rise up, and we're going to see the judge were by no means perfect.
No.
Each of them had their flaws, and we're going to get into that. But the cyclical nature of it all, like to go back to the idols after the judge dies, or to go back to the evil ways after he dies, and it keeps on going over and over and over again. And we see just as in Judges 2, every time a judge has risen up, and after that judge dies, the people go back to idols, more corrupt than the time before. So I'm like, it just shows like how the devil was just busy. Because like we said it before, we said it on podcast, on or off mic. But think about it. Like right now, Christianity is a little scattered. We all over the world. This is before Christianity. And it's like, bro, this is God chosen people right here. These are mostly the only people who really care to serve the one true God right here. I only have to direct all of my focus in this one
right
nation, bro.
Yeah.
Just one nation. So it's like, yeah, we going hard on them, but like on the outside influence, it's like, bro, the devil really has like him and all his minions. They just focusing right here.
Mm-hmm.
And he, like, just like how Balaam said, guess what? Nothing we could do to curse them. We could get them to curse themselves. That's the best we could do. And you know what Balaam say? Have them worship your gods. And we see that same play still holding true generations later.
Still works.
It still works.
Yeah, and then I also think to myself, right? If the Lord wanted to minister to the Canaanites, y'all the only people to do it. And instead of being a light to them, y'all end up taking their practices. So everybody doomed. You know what I'm saying? The Canaanites who probably already who do not respect God. And at their earliest convenience, they want to kill you all, the people of God, and put you all in bondage. See, now that's a crazy thing to me. This the enemy. These people want to enslave y'all, want to kill y'all, want to damage y'all, destroy y'all, steal from y'all, all of that, mainly because they feel like this is what y'all did to them, payback, right? But y'all, instead of keeping y'all distance, y'all rather make oaths with them, y'all make covenants with them, y'all worship their gods. It's just crazy to me. But from taking it to a nowadays standpoints, bro, like, the 10 Commandments clearly states not to make any graven images, not to worship these things. It might be a hipster or like a trendy type of thing to do, but statues of other gods, even statues of God, just to be honest with you, that Jesus person who they is puff on jewelry, I used to wear them, but I don't wear them after our 10 Commandments episode. I had to really think about it, bro. Like, it didn't say, oh, don't do it didn't specify what type of graven images not to make, like it said, do not make it, like, do not make the graven images. And I'm like, why would I make this graven image and tell myself that I'm wearing this as a representation of God who says not to do it? And then at the same time, my God ain't small enough to fit around my neck. What? My God too big to fit around my neck. I'm not going to minimize him. And then guess what? If your God could fit around your neck, why worshiping that? You know what I mean? Why supporting that?
Even a deeper thing, like why are you worshiping something that you can make?
Right? That you make personally. Like you or somebody put their hands to see. It's like God makes things. Everything that's around today is created by God. You understand what I'm saying? Like if we take away all of God's creations, we wouldn't have anything. We wouldn't even have us. We God's creations. You know what I'm saying? And instead, like nowadays, right? A lot of people want to worship the universe. And they don't come out and say they worship the universe, but some people pray to the universe. Some people say, oh, the universe wants this to happen.
The great energy.
The great energy when the stars align. I used to use these language because I thought it for deeper than what they was actually saying. I didn't know y'all was literally meaning the universe, the actual universe. You understand what I'm saying? But I thought you was meaning that all things are coming together. You know, like how they say like a universal something, and that represents all things.
Universal,
but they actually,
yeah.
Right, they actually mean the galaxy. They actually mean the stars and stuff. And I'm like, no, I don't pray to the universe. I pray to the God of the universe. I pray to the one that made the universe. You know, in the same way, I don't pray to a statue, you know. And at the same time, I'm not trying to brag or be proud, but the Lord is telling us not to do that.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that we shouldn't do. And so even in the world of just being open to other religions and being accepting, you need to be firm on what we believe. You know, I used to want to learn about other religions. Oh, this is so cool. Y'all is pray this way and do that and X, Y, Z. But I don't even have I don't even wish to do that no more. You understand what I'm saying? Because some things are very entertaining and some things are sensational to you, and you might want to adopt that. You know, and that's a slippery slope. You and I, in our spare time, we started reading books that we felt like were supposed to be a part of the canonical books of the Bible, like the book of with Joshua or Enoch and stuff. But just speaking about Joshua specifically, you read that book, it is so much going on, bro, and it's stuff that you can't unlearn these things. You understand what I'm saying? And so it's like all of these things are slippery slopes and distractions. The Bible has so much content and so much nuance and just so much to learn and to relearn and to learn and to get deeper and deeper. We don't have time. We shouldn't have time to be looking at trying to understand other religions, especially if you are already content that Christianity is the one true religion. There's nothing else we can learn from them. You understand what I'm saying? And remember this: the Bible contains enough information to save your salvation. And that's the number one goal. Before anything else, you can read other books that can teach you wellness and meditation and all of these other things. But remember your salvation before anything else. And that's the Bible. That's what's in the Bible. All it took was one generation to ruin all that God and the Israelites had established. After Joshua, the Israelites strayed farther and farther from the teachings of God, to the point where they worship the very idols that God told them to destroy. The anger of the Lord burned against Israel, and he gave them over into the hands of their enemies. And when they cried out to the Lord, he raised up a new leader, the first judge. But this isn't your ordinary judge. But we'll talk about Othniel and the Israelites on the next episode of A Breath of Fresh Air. Tonight's episode included voice acting by your host, Earl Roberts. Remember to go ahead and research on your own in order to get a more firm understanding of tonight's episode. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. You can follow us on social media at A Breath of Fresh Air Pod on Instagram and BOFAPOD on Twitter. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next week.